think I tried as a new way. I'm gonna show you the tricks I know. Not getting tired of talking, so I made up a show right now. It's time that you made your mind up. I know it can sound a little bit strange. Everybody is talking. You need someone ready to change. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay, 'cause it's the right time. I'm feeling alright. I'm flying higher. I'm ready to swim right now. Geeksvana. Don't miss any highlight. There's something you may like. From side ready to fly. I'll tell how to do it right. So I'll tell how to do it right. Geeksvana. Feeling alright. We're flying higher. We're gonna win tonight. We're here just for the audience. We're gonna show what you're going through. We wanna find you the perfect drone. There's no one else who can help you out. It's time that you made your mind up. I know it can sound a little bit strange. Everybody is talking. You need someone ready to change. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay, 'cause it's the right time. I'm feeling alright. I'm flying higher. I'm ready to swim right now. Geeksvana. Don't miss any highlight. There's something you may like. From side ready to fly. I'll tell how to do it right. So I'll tell how to do it right. Geeksvana. Feeling alright. We're flying higher. Gonna win tonight.
Hey everybody, welcome to Geeksvana Live. Thank you for joining us, and thank you as well for the vast majority of you who have come across from the live premiere, which is just finished. We were trying something new this evening. YouTube now allows you to bring an audience across from a premiere, or in fact go the other way from a stream to a premiere. So I thought I'd give it a go, because I thought, as well as putting out my video this evening, it would be good to have a chat with a few of you and just really talk this subject out for a little while. And I want to see the feedback and the opinions that other people have, both in terms of this particular topic at the moment with auditors using drones in the UK, but also opinions on what I said and that type of thing as well. I'm always open to scrutiny and questions as well. So please do ask your questions in the chat. Please at Geeksvana with anything that you'd like to ask me, and I will endeavour to get through those as much as possible, as our senior mod Andy Cortez has just put in the chat as well. Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be raising a few areas of discussion on this topic, but overall I want this to be a conversation between myself and you, the chat. A lot of my live streams are often about a particular subject, so I have a lot of content to get through, a lot of videos to play, guests, co-hosts, etc. Tonight it's just me and you, chat. It's just us chilling out, talking about this particular topic. Now, it is obviously a bit of a controversial topic at the moment, and people from each side do get a bit heated defending what they see as a vital point of view, which I completely respect. I support the need to have those open discussions, hence why I'm running this live stream, but it must be carried out, please, with respect and relative politeness to each other. Our moderators do have instructions to remove anything offensive, foul language or personal attacks. That's not what we're here for. This isn't the place for that, and we're looking to keep the chat relating to the topic at hand. So yeah, please do just let me know that, basically. Feedback on the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the premiere. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Is it how you thought I would stand on the audit channels using drones? Now, I wasn't really interested in making any content on this particular topic, frankly, about audit channels and drone use. There is an intersection there, but really their work, their content is very different to my channel in terms of what they're looking to achieve and that type of thing. And yeah, it wasn't really something that I was interested in. You wouldn't see me making videos on, how does F1 use drones and that type of thing. So it to me isn't really something that I involve myself in, and therefore I can't really call myself expert in what the audit channels do, so I wouldn't want to sit and, you know, judge people or preach about something that I don't know enough about. But the fact is, many of the viewers do ask me, what do I think about this situation? I get lots of the videos sent to me saying, was the police officer right, wrong? Was the audit channel right, wrong? And I get people from both sides of the argument, I suppose, or both sides of the debate, who send me things asking me in terms of what my opinion is. So that's why I put out the premiere that you've just watched. Now, I've been interested by some of the videos that I've seen from the audit channels, especially early on, where I would actually disagree with the actions of police and auditors often in equal measure. But it gets so repeated to me that it just wasn't enough interest to keep me going. But that's fine. But perhaps that's just something more to do with the life I've lived and that type of thing. It's again, no issue with the channels, no issue with any other creator creating content. So I think YouTube is fantastic in the point of view that we can get so many different types of things happening out there. So let's just very quickly catch up with the chat, as that is supposed to be a chat focused one here, and I don't want to rattle on too quickly, too much. Thank you to all of our moderators who helped with the premiere before and are helping again now. XJet Bruce, great to see you. John Cuppi, good to see you. 107 Drones. DJ Audits, hi, good to see you. I did see News Now Yorkshire and another audit, a couple of other audit channels in the live premiere, which so thank you very much for joining us and being active within the chat. I do appreciate that. Let's have a look at what some of the people are saying. Yes, Mini 3. DJ Audits, buy it. It's an excellent drone. It is a mark above the Mini 2 in so many ways. Flight stability is excellent. Wind resistance is also superb as well, actually. So there's definitely, it's definitely worthwhile. Also, you've got sensors, so you've got tracking and things like that. So it's easier to get some smooth footage, as it were. DJ Audits, answering New Homes Audit. Yes, it's good and fun, and we do educate people, which I know is not my job, but do what makes you happy and leave on good terms with people, then no harm done. My issue with that type of comment, and generally in the audit channel side of things, is that I'm happy for the police to train their officers, and for security companies. Yes, that people need to be aware of the drone rules, but equally, I don't personally want police resources wasted by, in my opinion, people deliberately showing up to wind those officers up to get a reaction, to get themselves in cuffs and that type of thing. It's just not something which I think that is not the way, in my personal opinion, to teach the drone rules with any kind of real value, frankly. But as I say, each their own. Chris Digata says it's more about curiosity. You would not do it to your wife's business if she had one. It's interesting actually as well, because on the side of things of business, because of course, although the police ones are things that I've had more interaction with, the police videos, audit channels aren't just sort of walking up to police officers, knocking their hats off and running away or anything. There are wider subjects they cover, wider areas that they go and check out with their drone as well. One of my fears, and I said in the video, I think there are other repercussions that we don't necessarily see coming. One of my fears is that actually flying drones over private businesses, secure businesses, things like tractor dealerships and all sorts of other types of businesses, although it's perfectly legal and you have a right to do so, that could change, and that's my fear, from the point of view that if enough landowners and enough business owners complain to their local MP about this type of thing happening and exposing what they feel is security issues and everything else like that, I fear that we could start seeing restrictions on being able to fly over private property and that type of thing in the future. So I don't actually think the drone rules will change, because I think that there isn't enough of these flights happening. If you added up all of the audit channel flights, it's a tiny percentage of the flights that happen in the UK every single day. So I don't think that's necessarily going to be an issue at all in terms of the drone rules changing. But I could see issues with takeoff location becoming formalized and takeoff permission being formalized, and also the type of thing you can capture, etc. So that's really one of the fears that I personally have. Let me have a look at what else that people are saying. Yeah, we all make money from YouTube. And, you know, if people watch it, then you're going to make money, which is fantastic. We enjoy a monetized channel here with Geeksvana, so that's 100% correct. 107 Drones at Geeksvana. To avoid conflict, I always carry laminated print-offs of the federal and state laws. The purpose is to share with law enforcement so that we can all learn should need a ride. And I agree with that. And we actually have a video for the UK drone operators with the A5 print-off leaflets that explain the rules that you're able to hand out to anybody that's approaching, whether they're police or not. My issue is that you're going to get a different reaction as far as I'm concerned. If you turn up to a police station, if I today went out to I can make an audit video that would get 200,000 views. I know exactly the pressure points with my experience in journalism and my experience with video making. I know exactly the pressure points I could make to make a extremely successful set of viral videos along the same lines. If I turned up to a police station with my identity concealed and I stood right next to the vehicle entrance of a police station flying my drone, I'm going to get a reaction. It's going to happen. If I do that 10 times in a week, 5 or 6 times, I'm going to get a reaction. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, that police should give anything but a professional reaction, but also they are human beings, and you know, it is a job that's under stress. So I really do see both sides of it, frankly. But of course, everybody is entitled to their opinion. Lindsay Hayes, hey Geeksvana and all, coming at this from conflicted positions. My business has been dangerously buzzed by a drone flyer, but I'm appalled by the overreactions to auditors. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, you know, we have to bring the context of everything into line, frankly. I honestly feel that the reaction that auditors get from police, a lot of it is very much based on the police not having the correct training in at least the basic drone rules, but also the fact that this is happening in an extreme position. Drone auditors' flights are the extreme of the hobby. They're not the norm. This isn't the way that that my viewers tell me they're getting approached by police. Now, I'm not saying there aren't issues out there. I'm not saying there aren't issues at all, because in fact, one of the major issues that I'm finding at the moment is that even after the event, so a neighbor or witnesses will report a drone flight, and then basically the police will respond to that. And sometimes those responses are very heavy-handed and also completely along the wrong lines entirely, and you know, making all sorts of threats, etc., in writing. So there is definitely an issue there, and it needs dealing with. But this type of scenario, the scenario that we see with people flying their drones over police stations and being arrested or being approached by police, that is not the normal reaction. That is not the normal interaction that I believe most UK hobbyists will have with drone flyers. Up next, that drone, the Goth Guy Drones, hi, thank you for joining us. Lindsay Hayes, how it does a drone dangerously fly over your business? Well, depends, it was FPV camera. You know, we have to remember as well that the Article 241 is something which covers all of our drone flights, every single thing we do with our drones, and that is basically ensuring that you operate safely. And I think there's going to be a few more Article 241 cases being brought in the future, in my personal opinion. But there we go. But you have to watch the height that you're flying over things from all sorts of different issues, but particularly Article 241. Okay, the chat is just jumping down there for me. DB80, I agree. Why deliberately cause a reaction? There's a deliberate mentality to get in cuffs, to then look at getting money from the force. Yeah, and you know, if it wasn't for the fact that a lot of audit channels will do this and then be very, very proud over compensation they've received, and a lot of audit channels will do this and, in my opinion, waste police resources when the thing's actually happening, I wouldn't have a problem with this. I would say, okay, they're flying a drone legally. The end. Someone's approached them and raised the issue. You know, the end of it. There is nothing there. But what does get me personally angry, and this is just my personal opinion as Sean Hickey, it annoys me that we're wasting police resources, frankly, and that those officers should be out doing something else. That is not the way to get to get any kind of meaningful penetration. You talk about the amount of officers that have been trained and that have been taught things by audit channels. Well, the issue there is that half the time the audit channels, not half the time, a good percentage of the time, the audit channels themselves are actually getting it wrong. But also, there's 140,000 police officers in England and Wales, over something like 43 different police forces, something around those figures, and that's not even including Scotland and Northern Ireland. So even if these drone auditors turned up at every police station, at police stations every day for the next 10 years, they're not going to get the penetration of training that perhaps some might suggest that they feel that they are. Okay, DB80, from my experience, a lot of auditors using drones don't know the law themselves, i.e. insurance, and whilst testing the understanding of legislation, they don't fully understand themselves. D-Day audits, I do cover my face until a camera in someone's hand, by the way. Yeah, and I want to clarify this because this came up in the premiere a couple of times in the chat. Nothing illegal about covering your face, nothing, no issue with that at all. Especially, it's interesting that the issue has changed slightly following COVID times, where people have been used to others covering their faces. I don't have an issue with them covering their face at all. And from the journalism side of things, there are journalists around the world that will cover their faces for all sorts of reasons, and so I don't have any issue with that as such. More, my reason for raising that a couple of times in my video is really that you have to, in my opinion, look at the reaction that the police officers are then giving you. So as I say, someone stood at the vehicle or pedestrian entrance to a police station flying a drone over the car park with their head and face covered, and that person is extremely awkward in that police officer's opinion, won't tell them who they are, won't tell them what they're doing, that type of thing, all of which I understand is perfectly legal. But just because it's legal, is it really still something you should do? We have in my opinion, a responsibility as drone pilots to represent the hobby as well as possible, but also we have a social responsibility as well. And knowing that this gets that kind of reaction and you're going to get tens of thousands of views, etc., I'm not sure that that's really where I want to see the whole audit side of things, the whole audit side of direction going. Look back on my channel, and before this started happening in the UK, you will actually see where Geeksvana has put out content regarding an American flyer who was arrested in parks illegally in the US, and we helped their campaign, we backed their campaign, and we publicized their campaign, and they successfully sued that police department. There are several other videos like that on my channel where we have supported the rights of drone flyers. We have supported where people have been persecuted, frankly, for flying their drone, and where the drone rules, both in the US and here in the UK, have been basically misapplied, and people have been arrested, and sometimes their lives changed because of those arrests. So I'm not against holding the police to account. I'm not against and I don't think that the reactions that necessarily police give to audit channels is the one that I would like to see. But all I'm saying is that I understand from the policing side of things that if someone does come to the police station and is deliberately provocative, then they're going to get a reaction, frankly. The main topic of that video about whether or not that will ruin the drone hobby, etc., it's not enough interactions, it's not enough flights. Put all of those videos together with police, and it is not enough from a statistical point of view to create an issue from the point of view of the rules. So no, I don't think that's going to happen. Amanda's Adventures, hi, and thank you for joining us in the live premiere as well. I really appreciate it. I fly my drone on my adventures. Obviously, I check the fly zone, etc., make sure I can see when I fly over historical buildings to give bird's eye views. Maybe one day I'll get some confrontation. Yeah, and the thing is, you probably won't, in all honesty. You're not necessarily... I think where the confrontation with drone flight is going to become a regular thing is actually where you have drones like the Mini 2 and Mini 3 that are not necessarily hobby drone flyers. So people are going to be picking drones up soon, sub 250, you don't need to be skillful to fly them, stick the thing in the air and it will fly itself really, you just got to know a few rules. And with the sub 250 here in the UK, the rules are fairly loose, which is fantastic. So I think we have a lot of people that are now buying those drones that actually don't really call themselves drone hobbyists. It's just like having a phone in your pocket, or having a camera to take pictures. It doesn't necessarily mean that they count themselves as a phone hobbyist or a camera hobbyist. it's those people that will perhaps be flying drones in more public locations, closer to people, that type of thing. That's where I think the confrontations could come from. Not necessarily people in the hobby who are, as often, in my opinion, are actually flying highly responsibly. My channel, I like that name. Taunting people with the drone is disgusting, very unairmanly, whereas it may be a joke to the auditor. The victim's anguish is real. After all, what is terrorism and who indeed is a terrorist? Yeah, interesting point. And I think that, as I say, that I really maintain that my issue is down to the fact that this is, in my opinion, deliberately antagonizing things to happen. It's not a natural reaction. I could fly at 30 police stations and I would never be even approached by the police, because I would pick my takeoff point to be correct and safe, so I'm not causing a problem. I'm not concealing my identity. If any of the officers come up and ask me what I'm doing, I'll tell them and explain about flyer IDs and operator IDs, all that type of thing. I have my little GVC pilot's card on me from the operator that trained me. So yeah, that's just my personal reaction. So there's nothing wrong with my reaction, because it's how I would personally do it, and there's nothing wrong necessarily with how an audit channel would do it. But I don't see it as socially responsible. Okay. Lindsay Hayes, that Geeksvana, is it a hobby if it is monetized on YouTube? Yeah, obviously I was saying, will it hurt the hobby? No. If those flights are carried out specifically for commercial reasons, they are aware that those flights are going to be, they intend on those flights going on to YouTube. So certainly I think that, and I think most of the audit channels do realize that they would need EC compliant commercial insurance and all of the things that come from that. But I'm sure most of them will be aware of that. Okay, 107 drones. One of the problems in the US is that courts have stated rightly that people are entitled to a reasonable expectation of privacy, yet they will not define what that means. Yeah, and 107, that's an issue really for drone flyers across the world. And part of the work that we've done here at Geeksvana is actually getting the CAA on the channel, getting the police on the channel, and trying to actually get them to say, okay, what is the hard and fact rules of this situation? And what I found is that common sense is something that comes up a lot, and that type of thing, and oh, you've got to use your judgment, etc. And I have an issue with that from the point of view that actually, if you have the powers to, as with the CAA, to regulate and to take away my GVC or to take away my A2CFC or even my flyer ID, etc., or if you're a police officer that has the powers to arrest me and that type of thing, I want to know what I can and can't do specifically. I don't necessarily want it to be grey areas, which is one of the reasons why I started Geeksvana. And although I feel like we've cleared up a lot of those grey areas and we're able to give advice, it's not always there. I've got a very interesting chat coming up with the UK Civil Aviation Authority, which will be released middle to the end of next week, which is talking about accepted means of compliance, general opinion, guidance, and also then of course legislation. And that's going to explain exactly how a drone rule sometimes isn't a drone rule and that type of thing. But anyway, we'll come on to that next week. But 107, I do 100% see what you're saying. XJet, perhaps we should educate the public that if they appear in a YouTube video, they can demand their face be removed under threat of the video being taken down. Yep, absolutely. The YouTube policies aren't always are the YouTube policies, and certainly if somebody doesn't want to appear in a video, you will need to blur them, which is why they've actually added the blurring tool, which isn't always 100%, but it is there. The Goth Guy drones answering at Fly Sky Drones. The CAA gives you rights to fly in any uncontrolled airspace once registered. I can't see what he was answering there. I once watched the other day and the auditor said the CAA gave him the right to fly over a factory. Yeah, I mean, the CAA doesn't, and this is one of the things actually which I see all over the hobby and in the industry. For instance, you'll have people that will say, I'm a CAA approved drone flyer and this type of thing and licensed and blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't really work that way. You have identifications. So you have flyer identifications and you have operator IDs. You have the A2CFC, which is a certificate. It's not a license. And the GVC, which again is that. Even right at the top there, the operational authorization is an authorization authorization. It's not, you're authorizing someone to fly at that level. The CAA doesn't give permission for anybody to fly, etc. It doesn't give its approval to anybody. You still have to realize that when you take off with that drone, ultimate responsibility is with you and you alone, and you have to be happy that your processes will stand up to the acceptable means of compliance from the CAA, but also hold up in court with a judge or with the CAA reviewing your authorization, etc. So yeah, no, it is there. GMC Aerial Solutions at Geeksvana. Sean, morality is the word. Yeah, and that's really where I've watched audit videos before. Auditing Britain is one of them, and but particularly auditing channels in the States that I've watched. And as I said in my video, I think some of the things that they expose, some of the topics they cover, are vital and are done very, very well. And I'm not naming UK audit channels either negatively or positively, only because that isn't what this is about. This is about the general topic. So please don't think if I'm not mentioning people that I have a particular negative or positive view or anybody. But when I watch those channels and when I've watched some of those videos, it shocks me because, as a white guy in his 40s living in Surrey, I've had interactions and negative ones with the police in my past. Don't get me wrong, I have lived, but I'm not necessarily, a guy driving a Jaguar down the high street of a Surrey village isn't necessarily someone that's going to get a negative reaction from the local police or traffic police, etc. And it has shocked me, some of the auditing side of things I've seen, and auditing as a niche, auditing as a form of journalism is very, very important, and it's something which should be protected. But I think you need to protect that from within that niche as well, the same way that I try to protect my own form of journalism from within my particular niche. Ken's UK Adventures. Airspace over private property is owned up to a certain height by the landowner. It can actually be trespassed to interfere with the normal use and enjoyment of the land with a drone. That's particularly applicable with residential, particularly. And our video that we said, can you fly from your garden, which has had tens of thousands of views, thank you very much. That one actually did show that you need to, in my opinion, looking at the drone rules, etc., and also the other rules of the land, that you do need to make sure that your drone is up there, and it's all about identifying people individually and that type of thing, etc. But it's also how you use the footage, etc., and that type of thing. So it can be a bit of a can of worms. Lindsay Hayes is answering that Goth Guy drones. Heavy drone low over a crowd. Oh, okay, you're answering that. Yep. Who were unable to move out of the way, under power lines, over an uncoupled building, fragile roof, etc. Dangerous. Yes, I would agree with that. Alan J. Elder Brown Esquire, it's complete nonsense to suggest someone with a drone is a pilot. I know. Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? The issue here we have here, and if you look back at my videos, if you go 6 months ago and before that, I would always call people drone flyers and drone operators and that type of thing. The issue here now is that the FAA, the CAA do refer to us as pilots. So that's the only reason why I talk about it from those terms. But no, I get your point. I understand that. And perhaps they'll go back to calling us operators. Who knows? Ken's UK Adventures, not fly any drone over a crowd in the UK. Yeah, in fact, it's actually a little bit more explicit than that. It's anybody that cannot move out of the way. So if you're flying in a park or something, there's 5 or 6 people there having a picnic, I would say that you shouldn't fly over those people even with sub 250, because those people cannot readily move out of the way. That's uninvolved people, of course. DJ Audits, what about people saying they own the airspace above their private property and will start a civil claim? Ever heard of this? Yeah, I was just obviously discussing it with the previous comments. It's really muddy. It's really, really muddy. And you have to remember that obviously they would be approaching you on a civil issue. The same as, trespass with local authorities saying you can't fly here without a bylaw. you're talking about a civil issue until it becomes aggravated trespass, etc. Of course, and the whole thing of airspace, the drone flight is regulated there by the CAA, but of course you could be breaking laws flying at police stations and private land, etc. You could be breaking laws that are nothing to do with the CAA. You could be breaking other rules and have other legal issues. So yeah, it's a bit of a can of worms, that one, but it has been pushed to me. But it's one of those ones, it's a bit like a lot of the rules. I've never actually heard of anybody putting it through court and testing it. And so, yeah, and even then, obviously a civil case being tested doesn't prove much either, frankly, sometimes. Inverted snobbery by non-auditing flyers. Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. Completely reject that. Wouldn't flying too close, 107 drones again, wouldn't flying close to a person to be considered a clear and present danger to a person's bodily harm and take precedent over a drone pilot's permission to fly? What's the argument? Well, the issue there is, for instance, here in the UK 107, with the sub 250 gram drone, you have zero separation of uninvolved people and you can fly over them. The idea being that a sub 250 gram drone, unless very specific and rare circumstances happen, it's not going to hurt you, basically. So the risk is so low that our regulator deems that you can actually fly those drones very close to and around people. So it's an interesting one to me. Chris DeGata, flying over and hovering are two different things. Yes, and that's a very, very important point. And thank you for raising it, Chris. That you have to remember as well that, of course, I was sent a Facebook post recently in a local community forum where a drone was hovering in a residential area, only probably, I would say, about 10 or 15, 20 feet above someone's house. And it was just sat there hovering, basically. There's a big difference in the drone rules in the terms of, hovering over things and flying over things. And from a safety point of view, Article 241 and everything else like that, you absolutely should not just be hovering, basically. And also from especially residential in the UK, you shouldn't be hovering over people's homes either. Bob Casey, hi, great to see you, Bob Casey. Bob Casey Aerial, hope you're well, sir. Thank you very much for the US audience for joining us with this one as well. Use common sense, fly safe, fly smart, fly legal. It's not rocket sense. Yeah, absolutely. And one of your hashtags there, fly sense, and then a separate one, hashtag fly legal, fly safe rather, it is, of course, there is a difference sometimes to flying legally and flying safely. And yeah, I mean, to me, it's a big difference. Type Wolf, good to see you, hope you're well. Here the farmers and hunters go crazy due to loud drones flying close to the ground during breeding season. Yeah, and there's other issues around farms as well as things. You shouldn't be surprised if you fly your drone over a farm, even though it's a completely legal flight, to get a very angry response from farmers, both in terms of the animals, but also in terms that criminals are using drones to scope out farms. Often a farmer that's been broken into and had machinery stolen will often report that a drone was seen flying over their land just a few days before. So yeah, I mean, there is a whole thing there with farmers and drone flight, which I think is, we have a social responsibility. I always say to people, if you're out flying your drone and you're flying around farmland, don't go near the buildings, don't go near the animals, and keep the drone moving, keep it at a decent height and keep it moving. It's just responsible flying. There's no law saying you can't buzz their buildings within a few feet, etc. But winding people up deliberately, I don't see a reason for it. Frankly, you can plan your flight around that. Andy Cortez, one of the senior moderators, hi. The definition of a pilot, a person who operates the flying controls of an aircraft. Yeah, but I understand it as well, Andy. I understand why people can have issues with calling drone operators pilots as well. Honestly, I do. DJ Audit, Ken UK, answering Ken UK Adventures. Does that mean a DJI Mini 2, which cannot go higher than 400 feet, can never fly over private property as it's owned within those numbers? I think you're answering somebody else's question there, and we have to remember there's differences with UK and the US side of things here. So, but once you're at a reasonable height above a property, there is nothing that property owner can do. The end. 100% on that. The end. Reasonable height, now there's a big debate. Yeah, DJ Audit's talking about perhaps having a test case of that soon. He visits some big companies. Ocado went nuts recently. Now, DJ Audits, this is one of my areas here. why did you fly over Ocado? Why did you need to fly over Ocado? What possible reason to fly over, and specifically there? I understand it's for the channel. I understand how the auditing thing works, but the fact is that when you've flown over there and you have provoked some reaction from security, and Ocado don't want you flying over that site, they go away and find out actually the flight's legal, etc. Not much you can do about it. Their next step is to start lobbying for there to be takeoff permissions and to stop drones being able to fly over industrial areas or private land, etc. And then that will affect the hobby flies, that will affect commercial flies, etc. For something that I don't think needed to happen, frankly. Personal opinion again. Danny Engesser, great to see you. I'm late to the party. What is an example of an audit channel? I'm not familiar with this term, a UK thing. I'm part 107 in the US, thanks. You do have them over in the US as well, actually. Audit the audits channels, or audit the auditors, isn't that one of the big US ones? And it's basically some of these channels will often actually, and especially in the US, a lot of the channels will have videos sent to them where people have been arrested and they feel unfairly, but they've recorded it on video either through dash cam or body cam and that type of thing. What we're talking about here tonight is the UK equivalent of that, but also the fact that these audit channels here in the UK are now using drones, mainly sub 250 gram drones, to basically check out police stations, private land, and that type of thing. And that is provoking reaction from police and security. And a lot of my viewers have contacted me concerned that this may see more restrictions to hobby drone flight in particular. So that's what this evening is all about, frankly. And tonight we had the video premiere, which happened just before this, which was my opinion finally on drone audit channels in the UK using drones. Said drone twice there, and this is just a follow-up. I wanted to give a forum for people to have a chat and debate this. And on that matter, can I just say, looking at the chat, looking at the moderation that's happening, literally no moderation needing to happen, which again shows me that we can all come together and have these discussions politely, but also allow us to actually get our true feelings across. So thank you everybody for that. I really do appreciate it, and it's exactly what I tell any outside body, any outside group, that the UK drone hobby, the worldwide drone hobby, is responsible and can have an open debate on most topics. Okay, legwork. By reason only of the flight of an aircraft over any property at height above the ground, which having regard to wind, weather, circumstances is reasonable. Yeah. Olive joining in the chat there. Hi, Olive. Thank you very much. Olive is, of course, my co-host usually. Tonight she is the moderator. She's just moved home, but she will be back on the channel again very, very soon. So everybody wish Olive a happy housewarming. This is going to be Olive's housewarming stream. Okay, now, what about the topic of, I'll come back to the chat, tag Geeksvana if you want me to answer something in specific. It doesn't have to be about tonight's show. If you have questions about the drone rules, etc., if I know the answer, I can try and help you there as well. Now, next up, the next topic I want to bring up on this specifically is actually what I've titled, Police Cannot Know Everything. And in my opinion, we cannot expect every officer to know every law. And in the drone rule side of things especially, we're within a niche which is changing. The CAA have just recommended to government that they would like to investigate and review the entire open category, which is, of course, where us hobbyists fly our drones, entire open category of airspace, that is. So to me, although I don't want to see a police officer approaching someone and abusing their rights whatsoever, I also don't know how we are supposed to have every police officer know every drone rule, when in fact the priorities are other things, serious crime, violent crime, etc., and that type of thing. That's what I want police to be dealing with, just personally. Would I like to be approached by an officer who is aggressive to me about my drone flight and threw me in cuffs, etc., despite the fact that I'd like to think I know the drone rules fairly well? No, of course I wouldn't. And I would absolutely be very much against that, and would take every legal step to that's within my rights to ensure it didn't happen again. But equally, I personally do not see how we can expect every officer to know. Now, how every officer reacts to not knowing, that's a whole other different kettle of fish, of course. And I do think that the police, outside of these deliberate provocations, should deal with people as professionally as they possibly can. But that's a rule and that's an issue that I think happens everywhere. It's the same as with the NHS. When I go into hospital, you have good and bad doctors, good and bad nurses, etc. But obviously with the police, they can affect your entire life, frankly. So it is an important one to discuss. Okay, this is an interesting one. Hopefully the chat is moving quite quickly tonight, so hopefully I don't lose it after I come out the pause. No, I've managed to store that. But somebody was asking about line of sight, looking down at their controller, etc. Having the visual line of sight side of things, to keep your drone in visual line of sight, doesn't actually necessarily mean that you can physically see your drone, that you're actually this is for the UK, by the way, that you're looking at your drone the whole time. It should be that if you look up, the drone is within visual line of sight. You are allowed to look at your screen because there is obviously important information on there. The acceptable percentage that I've heard is 70-30. So if you're looking at your controller and your screen for about 30% of the time and the drone the rest of the time, then you're generally okay. That was in my training for my GVC as well. So that's the advice that I would give, because of course you should actually have the drone within line of sight. Now, line of sight is also something which of course is extremely subjective and is almost impossible to 100% clarify, because of course, I wear glasses, so although these do correct my vision, I'm an old man, I'm 45 years of age, so my eyesight won't necessarily be as good as somebody else. But you should be able to see the drone and have control of it, in my opinion, know where it's going, so actually know which way, have it close enough that you can tell which way it's facing, but more importantly be able to react to things in the airspace around you. At our GVC course, we're taught to scan the airspace around your drone at all times to see what's happening so you can react to other aircraft. If your drone's a mile away, 1.5 miles away, you've got no chance of being able to react to other aircraft in that airspace and other hazards as well, both ground and airborne, frankly. So you can look at your screen, but it's only for a certain percentage of the time. But line of sight is much more important about that, actually, when you do look to identify where your aircraft is in the sky, that you can see it, not that you're looking at it the entire time. Yeah, Best Tech Digital Solutions UK. Hi, thank you for joining us. That's it. We only just got these new, more open regs regarding under 250 over uninvolved people, etc. I don't want to lose that very relaxed common sensibility. And to be fair to the UK CAA and to be fair to the police in general, who can make their recommendations to the CAA, because obviously they're the ones enforcing these rules, there isn't an appetite to come after the drone hobby. We don't have the CAA or the police hiding in the bushes to jump out at you flying your drone as a hobbyist. That isn't something that's happening out there. And I do not honestly see that this situation where Audit Channels are flying drones in the UK above police stations, etc. I don't see that will have any kind of negative impact to the drone rules in itself. As I say, I think there's issues with flying over private land, etc. If we keep winding up landowners, but that's a whole other debate. So I don't think it's going to have any direct changes. Do I think we'll start seeing FRZs above police stations? No, I don't think so, because I don't think that there is a justification for them. And the way the CAA works it with permanent FRZs and temporary restrictions, you do have to jump through a lot of hoops to get those things in place. So I think the system will hold up to the scrutiny that these drone flights are putting it under, in terms of the air navigation order and in terms of the CAA and police enforcement of the drone rules. I don't think that will happen. What I think will happen, as I said in my video that premiered before this one, is that actually you're going to start seeing less and less of these flights as more and more of police and security are told this. For instance, time is money, as DJ Audit said in reply to somebody else on one of his comments tonight. Time is money, and these private security companies and the companies themselves that are having drone flights over them, they're going to get to know the rules and how to respond and how to react, because at the moment they're wasting a lot of time and money arguing with Audit Channels and, you know, researching and trying to take action, etc. So in my opinion, once those companies have done that, once the security companies and the police have done that and the training's in place, then actually we're going to see it less and less. And once the provocation stops, once the confrontation stops because you're flying the drone, then that's it, basically. We won't see these flights on Audit Channels in the same way. We might actually start seeing some true auditing via drone, and that is something I would love to see. So yes, it was Solar Phoenix Phonics who asked that question about line of sight. So apologies, I didn't see your name the first time. Yes, random outings audits. There'll be complaints about auditors using electric push bikes next. If you use them to deliberately wind up security and police, then yeah, I'm sure there will be. Look off, guys. You'll be able to look up and see the drone. Yes, exactly, as other people are confirming in the chat for Phonics as well. Okay, a couple of @Geeksvana ones here. News Now Yorkshire. Hi, hope you're well. Why is hovering not okay? Some of the DJ quick shots require you to hover. Yes, no matter what an app says, no matter what DJI or Autel's apps tell you to do, you are responsible for the drone flight. Sorry, I didn't mean to point at you then. But we are responsible for the individual drone flight. You are. The issue with hovering, the big difference between hovering and an aircraft in transit is safety, basically. And I know it's only a sub 250 gram drone, so I'm talking about drone flight in general. But if you have a drone that is transitioning across airspace, so for instance, if you're flying a drone across a police station and it's flying across, if that drone has a problem, it's going to continue its trajectory along and it's going to crash, you know, perhaps not over the people that you're hovering over and that type of thing. Of course, it could then crash into more people, who knows. But a hovering drone is something in safety terms, which isn't a good idea, basically, especially if you're hovering over people or over somewhere you're not going to be able to get your drone back from. If it fails, then you're a bit screwed. Big Data Pimp, hi. Haven't seen you comment this evening so far. Sorry if I've missed any others from you. @Geeksvana. Remember, tag @Geeksvana if you want me to answer something specifically. Cops absolutely cannot know all the laws, but they can look them up, yes. And also, if it is so minor they don't know the law, maybe they have more important things to deal with than a drone flying. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And I do think I have seen reactions from police on Audit Channels and videos, personal videos that people have sent me when they've had interactions with police when they've been out flying their drone, where I disagree completely with some of the actions taken by the police officer. I do think if you don't know something, then you should refer. Police forces have drone units. Police forces have, you know, there's national bodies within police forces, etc., that are there to give advice and that type of thing. I know they can't do that in the heat of the moment necessarily, but I think that you can stop the situation, calm it down, go and find out the facts of what's actually happening, and then respond to it. So yeah, I think there's work there that needs to be done by both sides, but I don't think continually turning up to police stations to wind the police up with your drone is the right way to allow them the space to deal with the issue as well, basically. But that's just my personal opinion. Ben Norris, hi, good to see you. You often see them referring to out-of-date rules on official sites. There's no excuse for that not to be removed or very clearly marked as outdated. Yes, and I see this a lot with local authorities, and I'm a little bit of a job's worth that I do email local authorities to tell them, or companies to tell them, when I see out-of-date drone rules on their websites. And to be fair, most do actually change that. So yes, I completely agree with that point. Legwork, Bill, hi. The reason you're always... Oh, no, that's just... The chat has just jumped dramatically up there on me. Legwork, I'll have to try and find your comment again. Bear with me, everybody. Okay, well, I have to come back to your comment, Legwork. Apologies. XJets... And you can hear a helicopter coming from miles away, can't you? Not always, actually, I would argue. Yeah, Ben Norris, the RAF recently announced on Twitter that we should be filing NOTAMs or notifying them every flight because they fly helicopters below 400 feet. This is a really interesting story, actually. And I've actually got a video coming on this next week due to the way it was reported completely falsely by the Daily Express. But yes, there was a drone pilot who was flying a drone, an RAF trainer helicopter, a Texan, flew very, very close to him. And he actually, the drone operator, reported it as a near miss. And so therefore there was an airprox meeting about it. The RAF pilot only found out about the issue once once the report was made a few days later. And the RAF's response was that they feel that it is a significant issue. There is a significant danger because they are, of course, here in the UK, the RAF are allowed to operate their aircraft under 400 feet without giving any kind of notice. And they felt that perhaps we should be issuing NOTAMs and actually having our flights notified, even as hobbyists. I did see that, and it's an interesting one. And I am doing a little bit of digging on that. I'm reaching out to the RAF media team about it as well, because I think it's an interesting point of view to take, really, for the fact that, of course, most military flights aren't notified, aren't traced, and all that type of thing, which, of course, I understand why. But yeah, it's a real issue, which I think will be interesting. Travels with Rosie. Hi, Alex. Good to see you. Will UTM and remote ID make this easier? I think if you look at things like UTM, like the Altitude Angel test that's happening over in the Reading and northbound area of the UK, I think yes, because they're looking to track everything that's happening in that UTM style of operation. Do I think remote ID? Because not really, because it's about what you do with the data. UTM, yes. Remote ID, no. I think if you have a UTM that tracks everything in the airspace and has control of the commercial drones, like in the way that they're talking about doing it, then yes, that can work. But I don't think remote ID is the answer in itself. I think remote ID can help identify bad actors. So if you have 20 flights happening in an area and they've all got they're all pinging their local data, which only law enforcement can see, great, because then the one guy that's delivering drugs to a prison or whatever can be seen more clearly on there, then fine. But I think the justification for remote ID in terms of beyond visual line of sight flights, in terms of being able to track and control aircraft and that type of thing, and drone flight, I think is actually something which I don't think has, well, I think it has very, very limited scope, frankly. Next up, Bob Casey. You're looking good. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm off here. Thanks, Bob. Great to see you. Time to spend time with the wife. Great live stream. Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate it. Bob's one of our long-term viewers, and you'll see him on a lot of the live streams out there. A Steel City drone pilot. Now, here's a great example. Great to see you, Steel City drone pilot. And he says, not his comment necessarily, audit channels are pointless. They need to get proper jobs. Okay, that's your opinion. But here is a fantastic example. If you don't have Steel City drone pilot, actually, Andy, can you get his channel address and put it in the live chat, please? Because if you don't have him, you should follow him, frankly. This is a guy who has looked at the drone rules and has looked at the fact that he loves flying drones, and that, you know, he has a now recently monetized channel. Congratulations on that. And he flies his drones and has found ways to fly drones sub 250 a lot of the time, FPV, and he gets some great footage. One of his videos of Sheffield, I think, is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best videos I've seen this year in terms of drone flight. And also in his videos, he will put little messages up at the beginning and in the description to explain how the flight was legal and why the flight was legal under the current rules, etc. To me, that's really great education, because people are coming along saying, wow, this drone flight looks amazing. Is it legal? And the information's there on screen and in the description. I think that's a really, really clever way of doing it, frankly. And, you know, full props to you, as it were, for doing that. Yeah, Andy Cortez, I think, answering the people talking about whether or not you can hear aircraft approaching and that type of thing. 5 weeks ago in Cornwall, heli approached with 10 seconds audible notice at around 300 feet. Seems like he was looking for a landing site. Yeah, it isn't that you can hear these aircraft from a very, very long way away. And also different people have better hearing than others and that type of thing. We should be very, very careful, in particular of emergency services, helicopters, etc., because they could be looking for somewhere to land. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, AI, Owlsman, Cave Hobbies, hang gliding and paragliding are self-regulating with the CAA rules. No reason why drone operators cannot be the same, but it may require a supervising body. Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. And I think the biggest difference between us as a drone hobby and things like paragliding and hang gliding is that you don't have major corporations wanting to use paragliders to deliver their products or to monetize the sub 400 foot airspace. I think that's probably one of the big differences. Basically, I do think the drone hobby would have been left alone, much like the Model RC hobby was, and the FPV hobby within that would be left alone much more if it wasn't for the commercialization, which is happening and it's coming, so we have to accept it, etc., etc. Gavin HR, hi Gavin, great to see you. I guess it all comes down to a should you and what benefits does a drone flight gain rather than just doing it because you can. Yeah, Gavin, absolutely. Social responsibility. I completely agree with you there. Good to see you, Gavin. Hope you're well. I've had a few people contact me today saying their Fly app won't open. One of the things that Gavin does cover is the updates, etc., that happen on the DJI Fly apps. If you want information on those as and when they come out, and Gavin often tests them, then do hit him up. And subscribe. But yes, Gavin, we've had a few issues with that. I know there's a new beta update out, but I don't know if that's being released. I hear it's being released imminently, but I don't know if that's happened yet or not. And for Orlet, PJ and DJ audits are awesome to watch the confrontations. Yeah, and I understand that. It's the same as the car crashes as well, that a lot of people watch for that reason. I'm not suggesting it's the only reason why people watch those channels. And I can tell you, during my research, having watched a lot of audit channels here and in the UK, they've got some very active and they've got some very great communities that are discussing, very much like we do here on Geeksvana, about the specifics of the drone hobby and the drone industry, that are discussing their particular niche, their particular area. So they've got some great communities around them as well. Yes, as Andy says, if it's hovering with earshot, people tend to stop and look up at it. So it's a good way to get noticed as well. Thank you very much, Alexis, who's been a channel member for 13 months. I'm still in love with all you do for the community, Sean. Keep up the great work, sir. Thank you very much. And also, I think I'm missing, yes, Big Bear, Mark. Hi, Mark. Great to see you. A $10 super chat. All the best, Sean. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being a fantastic supporter of the channel. I really do appreciate that. Steel City Drone Pilot at Geeksvana recently had the police turn up at my house. They seized my drones and PC and arrested me for a road traffic offence under Section 22A. It was a joke. Video out soon. We're really interested to see that. Make sure you tag me in the description so I can have a look at that. And if you want to have a chat about that more widely, you know where I am, Sean at geeksvana.com. Dave and Emma Outdoors, any auditors like DJ and PJ and News are now getting pretty good at being safe with their drones with regards to the law, etc. It's down to the CAA to stop flying over the police station if it's such a big deal. And I don't think it's such a big deal, Dave and Emma Outdoors. I don't think that that's necessarily something that we're going to see happen. I don't think there's going to be any changes to make that happen, because I think once the training and once the knowledge is there, it won't be an issue. DB80 at Geeksvana, no terms are not quick and are designed for planning bigger events. Yeah, spontaneous flights wouldn't work with no terms. Completely agree with you there. Graham Parker at Geeksvana, you say when the cops and security know the rules, the drone auditing will get lower, which I can understand, but cops, security and people are still not sure about general photo in public. Yeah, you're always going to get that, but specifically for the crossover that I'm discussing here today with drones, I think the drones will start to go away from auditing channels. But say these channels, as if I'm being derogatory, from auditing channels once that training's in place, especially the sub 250, which I don't think is going anywhere. TB80, remote ID can help to understand the airspace alongside manned aviation if integrated with something like flight radar, but the RAF don't use it. Yeah, indeed, absolutely. And actually, on stateside with the FAA, they, on one of their recent live streams, one of their flight deck live streams, one of the general aviation side of things, they talked about this, and they talked about the fact that the feedback they had, so they want this remote ID so they know everything is, they could tell manned aircraft where everything is. They talked about that quite a lot, if you remember, historically, about the fact that it would be great for manned aircraft to know where every drone is and that type of thing. The feedback they got from the flight deck, from pilots, etc., was they don't want to see it, because actually there's already enough going on in their aircraft and enough going on radar wise, etc., that they don't want to see every single drone flight that's, you know, hundreds of feet, thousands of feet below them. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Urbexy, hi. Criminals will always use drones that do not have remote ID. Only law-abiding flyers will have it. Kind of defeats the point. Yeah, I can see the argument both ways on that. It can expose them more as well, but I do see that. Legwork Bill, here only about 60% of RAF traffic have ADS-B on, which helps a lot. It's usually visiting aircraft that don't have it turned on. Yeah, indeed, but it's, you know, it's still not a standard. I do think that systems like the Altitude Angel one that they're trialing here with Project Skyway in the UK, where the corridor is looked at from an airspace completely, and they can see everything that's happening in there, from helicopters to Mini 2 flyers to the commercial drone operators, etc., and their consortium members flying BV Lost flights. I think that's the way to go personally, but that's just my personal opinion. And yes, thank you, Andy. You have put the link to Steel City Drone Pilots channel in there. XJet, I think we need to regulate pigeon breeders. Flocks of pigeons have caused significant damage to aircraft, but drones haven't. Deal with the real risks first there. I think they'll probably deal with that when you can start, or when they think they can start delivering pizzas on pigeons. Perhaps we shouldn't give them that idea. Except answering at News Yorkshire, you don't find many manned aircraft inside abandoned buildings or below trees though. Yeah, and that's one of the things, is that this whole sort of sheltered operations thing. I'm a big fan of that. I think if we can find a way of sheltered operations working here in the UK, I think it would be a fantastic idea. GMC Aerial Solutions at Geeksvana. What's your opinion on FPV in A3 open category with or without a spotter? Now, it's interesting actually, because we asked this question of the NPC Counter Drones team who came on for a couple of live streams, and we've got some more content with them coming in September actually that we're preparing for at the moment. So if you're new here, hit subscribe for that. Subscribe and like, please. But yes, FPV in the open A3 category with or without a spotter. This is an interesting one to me, because I'm not enough of an FPVer for me to say, you know, hats on. But my experiences with my DJI FPV drone here, so I do put goggles on, I do fly that drone, but I don't fly packs and packs a day or anything. So I don't feel like I'm an authority on it necessarily. But my overall opinion is that you do need a spotter, and that a spotter is important, and not because you don't have situational awareness of what's happening with the drone out, you know, when it's flying close to things and trees, etc., but also from the point of view of knowing who's around you when you come back to land and that type of thing. And that's all it is. I would love for someone like Bruce to sit me down for an hour off air and just talk about this. It'll probably take more than an hour, and try and find a way that I feel that there's actually something that goes beyond needing that spotter, or someone that feels that way. I'm putting words in Bruce's mouth there. It's something that I'm open to, whether there should be a spotter or not. Personally, at the moment, I'm very much on the side of the fence that you do need a spotter, but I'm open for that to be that opinion to be changed. That's how I am with an awful lot of my opinions. But at the moment, it is a necessity. It is a necessity. I mean, you know, do you need a spotter if you're flying on a mountain in deepest, darkest Wales, and there's nobody around? I don't know, but how can you guarantee that there's nobody around and that type of thing? Ken's UK Adventures, FPV is illegal in the UK unless you have a competent observer next to you who can see the drone at all times. Yeah, a spotter is required, visual line of sight is required, absolutely. It would be an infringement of the current drone rules for sure. Gavin, hi, thanks Sean for the mention. Yes, the beta is out and I've launched it on the channel. Few bugs with the flight logs, but it gets people flying for the moment. Excellent, good to hear, Gavin. Thank you for the update, and I'll be sure to check in on your video later. Sorry for saying a few times there. AirTech Images, hi Sean, can you hear aircraft? Yeah, you can hear aircraft, but a chopper flying quick is going to be sounding like it's behind you, but it'll be right on top of you. Speed of sound versus speed of flight, got to have the visual. Yeah, absolutely. The only time you know where an aircraft is when you actually see it. I completely agree. Sorry, it's a very warm day here in the UK. I'm going to take a swig of water. We do have aircon in the studio, so I'm nice and cool this evening, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's been a very warm day today, frankly. Lester from above. Sorry, just tuned in, guys. Auditors all need shooting. Annoying idiots bringing attention to the drone world, and when you challenge them, they laugh. Well, that is your opinion, which I've hopefully this evening we've shown that all opinions are very much respected on this channel. Best Tech Digital Solutions UK. I believe if you want to fly BVLOS, then it should be only for medical emergencies, etc. Just to deliver Ken Heron's tube socks, I don't think warrants it. And Geeksvana, have you and Ken Heron fallen out? No. I had a whole thing with Ken, myself and Ken Heron. We are still good buddies. I speak to Ken a few times, I wouldn't say a week, but certainly a few times a month. And I didn't like how he treated me when I was a co-host on his show, so left that. There is a video on my channel explaining it. But no, I have no residual issue with Ken whatsoever. But yeah, BVLOS is interesting. And the whole, I think in 10 or 15 years time, we're going to be in a very different landscape again. And, you know, these things with air taxis and the amount of automated drone flight, etc., that people think is going to happen, I think won't necessarily happen in the way that they think they're going to. I think there's going to be a lot of use of the sub 400 feet airspace that us as hobbyists and commercial flyers are going to have to get used to. But I don't necessarily think it's a lot of it is a lot of the companies that are out there right now. But that's just my personal opinion. And XJet Remote ID does not tell manned aircraft where drones are. It just tells muggers where your wallet is. Yeah, fortunately, I don't think any of the systems here in the UK and Europe are going to have anything that's going to tell people where they are, etc. And Jonathan Jackson, OK Geek, have to go. Love the premiere in live, family. Glad we have you in the community later, family. Thanks, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. Good to see you, sir. The Goth Guy drones. Yeah, no, that's incorrect. You're telling someone else that BVLOS is already a thing, but it costs 10k for the lessons and license. There is no beyond visual line of sight in the UK. Beyond very limited trials issued through authorizations with the CAA. The course you're talking about will not give you a license to fly beyond visual line of sight in the UK. It will help you train for companies that are then putting those particular permissions in and getting those trial permissions and that type of thing. Yes, but it's a completely different thing. There is no general beyond visual line of sight side of things. We're expecting to see what are called bolt-ons coming for the GVC, the general visual line of sight certificate, which will give you extended visual line of sight hopefully one day, but I'm not sure if that's up in the air with all of the investigations and reviews of the open airspace category coming. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. At Geeksvana, my video on the drone industry hype is about 50% done. Excellent. Looking forward to that. Bruce from XJet, you've obviously heard of him, everybody that's here. He's working on a really good video talking about a documentary talking about the future use of automated flight in the sub 400 airspace worldwide. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be good. Yeah, Chris Hearn, hi, great to see you. At Geeksvana, my Mavic 3 used to warn about aircraft nearby, doesn't work anymore. Any ideas? Yeah, well, I've heard that from a few people, that it's either had something changed so that only, now only warning you of aircraft that are going to be a problem. Not sure, but certainly a lot of Mavic 3 owners that are reporting the same, that they don't get as many alerts. Alexis, hi Alexis, who was obviously, Alexis is a manned pilot and has been for, I was about to say many years, but it can't be Alexis because you're only 21, so you can only possibly have had your pilot's license for a year or two at best. But she says ADSB is only required in the United States when the aircraft is operating within controlled airspace. And yeah, she's just telling myself and Bruce that if we didn't already, yeah, indeed. I know there's also been, here in the UK, there's been drives from government to get people ADSB, and I know that they were offering the ADSB, the portable ADSB sensors at a 50% off rate, a rebate type thing, etc. So I know there's been a big push here as well for that. And any other questions in the chat? We'll keep things going for just a few minutes more, and then I'll let you guys head off and enjoy your Thursday evenings. Have anything else there? So no, okay, excellent. So really what I want to leave is the message that I support legal drone flight here in the UK, but I think there is a difference between law and morality. To me, doing something because you can do it and doing something in a deliberately provocative way isn't something that I'm interested in watching or seeing. So hence I don't watch these channels. They've got enough viewers. There's enough people that do support them. There's enough people that do watch that. So, they don't need me. But to me, it isn't necessarily socially acceptable in a lot of the ways that they go about doing that. And that's just my opinion. But again, the reason for the live stream tonight and the premiere that came before it is because people are asking for that opinion many times over. So hopefully I've dealt with this particular topic now, and we can all move on with it, frankly. Excellent. That's it tonight for Geeksvana Live. Thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. A great crowd in for the video premiere, and a great crowd in for the live stream as well. I really appreciate it. And one thing my final comment tonight is I love you all dearly, because as a drone community here in the UK and worldwide, we've come together to talk about a subject which, on both sides of the fence here, people are very animated, people have very strong opinions on, and people are very passionate about. And I love the fact that we've all been able to come together, and this chat has needed hardly any moderation. So thank you. It, to me, is a great example to anyone that wants to see the average UK drone hobbyist. Who are they? What are they about? And it's a really great sign, and I think it's a really good sign for the future of the hobby as well. So on that note, thank you very much, and join us next time on Geeksvana Live. Thanks, everyone. Good night.